Hi, welcome to What's the Book About? I'm your host Kevin. This is Wizardry Consulted by Rick Cook. This is the story of one honest wizard learning to become a con man while facing down dragons. This story takes place 3 years after the end of the previous novel, and if you're lost, go watch the other videos. Okay, so we find our main character, Wiz, surfing this interdimensional, very illegal internet connection when he's interrupted by a dragon landing on the Wizard's Keep. Now, in this universe, dragons are extremely hard to kill, mostly because the older they get, the more powerful they get, and this thing is pretty old and pretty powerful and immensely physically strong, and it is more powerful than pretty much every wizard in the castle. And considering the castle has the world's most powerful wizards and an entire pretty much army of soldiers and knights, yeah, one dragon causes them all to have a quiet little panic. Now, this particular dragon named Worm is a former cavalry mount, so it actually knows quite a bit about humans and has actually come to see Wiz in person because he has this little problem. There's this little human village on the border between the human lands and the dragon lands, and he's come to ask Wiz for some help. Now, in order to avoid immense death and huge amounts of property damage, Wiz naturally agrees to go with him. And, well, arriving on Dragonback in a community that's been plagued by dragons, he does not get a warm reception at all. In fact, he actually gets arrested and sentenced to be executed the next morning. Okay, so that's the spoiler-free introduction. Be warned, from here on in, there may be a few spoilers. I'll try to keep it to a minimum. So, locked in jail, waiting for execution in the next morning, Wiz ends up talking with his fellow inmate, a female thief named Malakan. In talking with her, he actually comes up with an idea to solve his problem. He convinces the town council he's an actual expert on dealing with dragon problems. That's why he rode in on dragon, because it's the easiest way to fly. It's actually really impressive, and the council buys it. So Wiz takes on Malakan as an assistant and basically as the only person he can trust to be honest with him. And the council saddles him with a house that has a nagging ghost problem. And he also ends up hiring a blonde, very ditzy, very beautiful assistant to work as a cleaning lady named Anna. And it's at this point the problems really start. Because, well, the town people demand his service. The council factions are each fighting to use him or abuse his abilities. And, of course, there's the occasional dragon coming in to exercise its natural rights to eat anyone and everything. And fighting these off using only his wit and a bit of obfuscation, Wiz manages to slowly succeed and make progress when one of the factions come up with a bright idea that to circumvent Wiz, they're going to bring in their own guy, their own con man, and they end up having a little duel. And again, Wiz, being the expert in magic, easily succeeds and ends up having to take the con man on in a apprentice capacity. He shovels a lot of the town problems onto this guy while he deals with the overall much more dangerous dragons. But success is fleeting, and eventually the book ends with a final confrontation between the world's most powerful wizard and the world's most powerful dragon. And it is here at the end that we learn that Wiz was not hired to help the humans with a dragon problem, but to help the dragons with a human problem. So, what's good and bad about the book? Now, as a part of a continuing series, the book does feel like it's on a little lower level than the previous books. Not that it's bad on its own, it stands rather well. But in this particular book, the focus is far more on the comedy and the characters than the action and the larger scope of these particular universe. Not a bad thing. In fact, actually, a lot of the humor is really well done. The various factions all have their own reasons and different outlooks, and they're really well crafted. The demands of their townsfolk are personal and crazy, and the solutions are equally wacky but make emotional sense and logical sense from a con point of view. And the twists and turns are minimal for the story, but they're enough to keep the reader interested and to keep the narrative dynamic. Now, there are some actual moments in our real world connected to the use of the internet from this wizard dimension, and it actually plays in as a plot point to the end of the particular series of events and the novel's finish. And the characters are minor flaw. The tertiary characters are one note, but because they're only there a short time and the author cycles through those small little characters quickly, it doesn't bog down the book or hamper the story in any significant way. So in the end, what is the book about? The art of the con. Everything about this story is all tied in to the art of conning people. The main character's entire arc is about learning how to do this, meeting other characters that are trying to con other people, like the council is trying to con the populace, the con artist is trying to con both his employer and the people at large to portray himself as something bigger and more important than he is. And it's all handled with a lot of humor. And one of the problems with fantasy novels and humor is that a lot of them, usually the humor derives in the setting and the fantasy tropes, but here the author actually ties all the humor directly into how the characters are portrayed, how they act and how they react to situations, and it's handled realistically, which makes the comedy much more realistic and well done. And this deft use of humor and great bits of tension and a little bit of action makes for a really well-rounded book, and it's why I have to give this book 4 out of 4 stars. Now, it's published by Baen, and it's a little hard to get the individual novel, but you can get the double bill Cursed and Consulted rather easily, and you can also get it singly as an ebook. So there's no reason you shouldn't go out and get it. Go and get it right now, read it, and enjoy. Till next time. Have a good one.